Alright, so good morning. Ayan, ako, we are experiencing blackout here at home. But anyway, today we're going to discuss about chapter 4, ethical issues. So as you can see, we skip two topics or two presentations for our lesson for our lesson for this term, since the two other topics, all right, was already given as your activity or as an additional requirement for this term. So, but anyway, um, today we're going to discuss about ethics, ethical issues, and ethical dilemmas that you may possibly or may potentially encounter later on as professional nurses. And even during this time that you are nursing students, may mga iba na nararanasan nyo na and we witness nyo na as you have your tour of duty in the hospital. So, as nurses later on, you will be facing several dilemmas, issues, concerns, problems that needs, decision making and that needs quick or right resolution to these types of problems. And of course, a part of your consideration as nurses or as nurse managers would be ethics. So, ano ba yung tama, ano ba yung mali for this kind of situation? Ano ba yung morally right, what is morally wrong for this certain situation? All right. So, according to J.G. Brune, when organizations and their leaders become fixated on the bottom line and ignore values, all right, an environment conducive to ethics failure is nurtured. So, if we do not address issues or problems in a certain institution, it will persist to become a failure. So, it becomes a, a rotten, it becomes a rotten institution since we tolerate such kind of fixation at the bottom line. So, yung isang sistema pag nagsimula sa baba, syempre at the bottom sila yung pinakamarami. Alright? So pag mas marami ang uh, ang nahawaan ng kabulukan, just like in a crate of tomatoes, okay? Pag nasa ilalim yung kabulukan, nadadamay yung nasa itaas na kukunti. So, gano'n yung nangyayari sa ating, yung nangyayari sa isang institution. So, alright, in this topic class, okay, so ethics has been defined as a system of moral conduct and principles, all right, that guides the person's actions in regard to right and wrong, and of course in uh, regard to oneself and society at large. So as you all know, ethics can also be dictated, or the conduct of moral good, ika nga, is conducted by the culture, the practices, and the beliefs that a certain society or community is adhering to. So, a certain culture or culture A uh, can consider a certain act as good, okay, but a certain community or culture considers that good um, activity of culture A as something that is bad, okay, or something that is wrong. So, for example, sa mga kapatid nating Muslim, allowed sa kanila ang uh, kakaroon ng multiple wives, okay? But in the Christian community, all right, we do not believe on that. So hindi natin pinapaniwalaan yun. Since we do not allow, okay, multiple partners, and especially when we get married, okay, at kinasal na tayo, ay yan. Okay, so hindi natin inaalala yan. Pero syempre may mga ano pa rin, may mga factors pa rin kung bakit nagpe-persist o nangyayari yung mga ganyang bagay. Okay, I'm sure nakaka-relate ka ng konti dyan. Ayan, mga pinagtagpo pero hindi tinadhana. Ayan, so the systemic study of what a person's conduct and action should be with regard to self, other human beings, and the environment as well. So, ethics can also be defined as the justification of what is right or good and the study of what a person's life and relationship should be. So, not necessarily what they are. Actually, based on my readings, ethics can be considered hindi nga daw siya absolute. Okay, ibig sabihin, hindi siya yung permanente na kumbaga ay yung tama ngayon can be right forever. Okay, so may mga pagbabago yan based on your justification and based on the changes in situations. Alright? So, uh, okay. So as agents in the nursing profession, okay, you will be involved in different situations where ethics can be applied. So, as agents, as teachers, as educators, at the same time as advocates of our patients, we are placed in situations where there are or where we are expected to be agents for patients, alongside with our doctors, our bosses, and the organization simultaneously. So, all of which may have conflicting needs, wants, and goals. So always, sabi ko nga, as I mentioned a while ago, always refer to what is ethically right for a certain situation, and you will never be at loss. All right. So okay, ayan. So competencies of for making ethical decisions as in-house managers. As you all know, hindi maikakaila that later on, okay, you will be um, you will be nurse manager, so you will be at the top of your of the organization. So konti-konti, gradually, ayan, so you will be starting at the bottom and then later on with, of course, continuing professional education with your seminars and trainings, with professional and personal development requirements, you will be you will be promoted and become leaders in your own institutions later on. So, what are your competencies? So, what do you need to know, or what do you need to bring with you for you to become ethically right or ethically guided with your decision? So, first is you have to have a knowledge of ethical principles and frameworks. So, at the same time, okay, you use now a professional approach that eliminates trial and error. So with your experience, okay, hindi na tayo nagdedepende dun sa, okay, subukan natin kung tama. Hindi na, because you know already what is good for that certain institution you are working in. Okay? Because you have tried, you have tested proven decision-making models already. Okay? Especially in the past. Okay? So you cannot become, or you are not an excellent leader. Okay? If you keep on trying several methods or several modes, okay, or several tools in your institution. Tapos later on, parang tinitest mo na lang kung parang magdadasal ka na lang na sana maging maganda yung resulta ng gagawin. Hindi. Okay? So when you become managers or you become leaders in your own institution later on, meron ka ng firm. Okay? Meron ka ng fix. Okay? Meron ka ng standard. Alright? Na models na gagamitin. Okay? In the application or in as you apply them or as you apply these models in making now ethical or morally good decisions. So at the same time, some competencies would include the use of available organizational processes to assist in making such decisions. So you can actually refer to your bosses or to the ones who are to the individuals who are experts in what they call this one, in making sound or good or excellent decisions. So always always be humble, always be courageous also to ask, the people who have been in that area, or in that institution, or who have um, tried, okay, that position before, so that you will be guided accordingly. So in making an ethical decisions also, there are questions that you have to bear in mind, or you have to ask yourself, okay, whether you are doing well, okay, okay, or you are guided well, or you are executing well the objectives, okay, of the institution you are working with. So, as a leader, okay, are you self-aware, or is there a uh, is there a self-awareness regarding your own values and basic beliefs about the rights, duties, and goals of human beings? So, makatao ba yung mga pamamaraan, okay, o yung mga practices, o yung mga binibigay mong desisyon, okay, sa iyong mga tao, sa iyong mga subordinates. So, do you accept ambiguity and uncertainty as a part of your ethical decision making? The ambiguity is confusion, right? Uncertainty, yung parang kawalang, ano ba tawag doon? Parang yung ugali natin minsan na bahala na. We depend on what the future may bring us without even, yung wala siyang kasamang planning. Basta bahala na si Lord, bahala na si Batman, ganyan. So, we accept that kind of attitude in the workplace, right? At the same time, we accept negative outcomes that may occur in your ethical decision making, despite high quality problem solving and decision making. So, walang perfect, okay, na decision at most of the time. So there will be flaws, there will be shortcomings, may mga kakulangan pa rin doon sa ating sa mga outcomes based on based on our decisions, okay, that we make um, in the process. So, are you able to accept the shortcomings or the flaws, okay, or maybe glitches along the process? So, is there a an inability on your part? Medyo mabigat pa sa loob mo kapag dumadating yung mga ganyang pagkakataon. Okay. So number four is demonstrate. Are you able to demonstrate risk taking and ethical decision making? So, kaya mo bang makipagsapalaran? Okay, ayan. So, kaya mo bang tanggapin kung mas mabigat yung naging resulta niya kaysa yung naging proseso ng desisyon mo? Okay? So, may mga ganyan. Mhm. So, kailangan may mga bagay na pinapanindigan natin. Okay? So, ginusto natin, kailangan panindigan natin. Ayan, di ba? Nakarelate na naman tayo sa mga ganyang, okay, mga ganyang tirada. All right. So role models, ethical decision making, which is congruent with the ANA, or the American Nurses Association Code of Ethics. But we also have our own code of ethics in the Philippines. That is pattern pa rin dun sa code of ethics that is practiced, or that is being regulated in the US. Kasi ang ating nursing program was actually, or is actually patterned in the US program. So halos lahat din ng mga models na ginagamit natin are actually patterned, okay, in the US. So do we have the ability to clearly communicate expected ethical standards of behavior? Alright. So minsan kasi you can not communicate a certain model, or a certain action, or a certain practice among your subordinates, dahil nga mismo ikaw as the leader do not practice it. Okay, so for example, medyo tainted ang credibility ni leader, so he or she cannot actually lecture, or cannot actually um, 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 tawag dito, cannot actually sermon, okay, hindi niya pwedeng i-apprehend yung kanyang subordinate that is involved with credibility issues. Kasi nga mismo si leader ay wala din noon. Ganyan. So, do you have the ability to clearly communicate these kinds of issues? Okay. So, parang dun sa previous work ko din dati. Alright. Na kung saan yung leader namin, yung leader na yung aming manager was involved in tawag dito, parang pakikiapid, okay, sa asawa ng may asawa. So, until such time, after several years, okay, after 20 years, more than 20 years, na may mga staff na siya, or may mga subordinates na siya na ano din, na nai-involve sa ganyan. Kasi hindi mo maiwasan na si nurse, okay, na-fall kay doc, mga ganyan, o si nurse, na-fall kay security guard kasi lagi niya nakikita, yung asawa niya nasa malayo, mga ganyan. So, hindi maiwasan na ano nga, may mga ganyan pagkakataon na ano ba tawag doon, na ano sila, nai-involve sila sa sa ganyang mga relasyon. And then when the time comes, okay, that the reaction or a comment was actually requested or taken from uh, from the manager, hindi talaga siya makapagbigay ng komento. She cannot give a complete advice as well to that person involved under her supervision because yung mission manager was also involved with the same problem, okay, or with the same issue. So, siyempre tainted na yung kanyang namantsahan na yung kanyang credibility. So, magiging questionable o hindi na kapani-paniwala yung kanyang magiging advice to that person dahil yun nga, mismo siya ay nagkaroon ng ganong problema. Okay? Ayan. So, sabi nga nila, you have to walk the talk. Okay? So kung anong ginagawa mo, yun din ay kung ano yung nakikita ng ibang tao, yun din ang gawin mo. Kung anong ginagawa mo, yun din ang ipakita mo sa ibang tao. Okay? So you cannot actually give something that you cannot have. Okay? So wala kang maibigay na advice on credibility dahil nga mismo ikaw ay tainted ang iyong credibility. Alright, so ang haba ng hugot ni Sir doon sa part na yan. Ayan. Okay. So, types of ethical issues. So, number one, there are actually moral indifferences. You cannot really avoid that. So, an individual questions why morality in practice is even necessary. So, you will encounter people with a different belief, with different practice. Okay, that maybe would differ um, would differ, okay, that much, okay, or miles different from what you are practicing. So, number two, moral uncertainty or conflict, wherein an individual is unsure which moral principles or values apply, and may even include uncertainty as to what the moral problem is. Okay? And we have moral distress occurs when the individual knows the right thing to do, but organizational constraints make it difficult to take the right course of action. Okay. So, may mga ganito, may mga conflicting, okay, conflicting policies, okay, na certain institution na sa tingin mo ay tama naman, makakatulong ka din sa tao, sa mga pasyente. But in the context of following now the standards of your institution, medyo mukhang magde-deviate ka doon sa uh, doon sa or mukhang may mababiolate ka na policy when you do this. Okay, nasa tingin mo naman ay tama dahil nga mayroong institutional policy that covers that certain issue. So, nangyari din yan in the workplace when I was working in the insurance. So, nangyari is um, we are allowed actually as branch managers since before we became branch managers, we are agents. Okay, we are sales agents. So, since ang dami kong mga kliyente dati dito sa Vizcaya, um, na hindi na rin nakokolekta when I was a sales agent, ako na yung personal na nangongolekta sa mga mga clients ko dito because there are also trust issues na encounter din yung aking mga ahente dito sa Vizcaya noon na ayaw nilang magbigay ng cash, okay, doon sa mga bagong ahente na nangongolekta sila. And gusto nila ako pa rin yung nangongolekta sa kanilang mga payments. But since I was assigned in Kawayan before as the branch manager of that insurance company, na na medyo pinasa ko na yung aking mga accounts dito sa Vizcaya. So, ang nangyayari is, may pasaglit-saglit pa rin every time I go home on a weekend, pinupuntahan ko personally yung mga client ko. So, yun yung nagiging cause minsan ng aking pagka-late doon sa aking office sa Kawayan on a Monday. Pero pinapaalam ko yun sa aking regional manager. And naiintindihan naman niya that I have to sustain myself dahil nga meron akong probationary period noon na 2 months na wala akong sahod. But I am already working as a branch manager. So what I did was I asked for the permission of my regional manager to collect these accounts from the Vizcaya para meron din naman ako panggastos sa kawayan. So naintindihan niya, but the territory manager, yung pinakamataas dun sa aming organization, was not aware. Dahil for sure, hindi niya ako papayagan. So ang inisip ko naman is maglalapse yung mga accounts ng mga mga clients ko kung hindi ko sila kukonektahan. So magiging bad account 'yon o magiging part ng ang tawag dito, pwedeng makasira 'yon dun sa performance ng Nueva Vizcaya branch kung hindi namin makokolekta 'yon. So puwedeng ma anong tawag dito, puwedeng ma-paralyze o puwedeng masira yung image ng Solano kung yung 50 accounts ay kasi marami na yun, eh. Yung 50 accounts ay hindi maa-attendan o hindi masosolusyunan. So, pero iniisip ko din na siyempre bawal yun dahil I have a work to attend dahil nasa office ako dapat ng 8 a.m. until 6 p.m. Okay, so on my part, I was concerned with the the branch, Solano branch. At the same time, concerned din ako dun sa ating finances dahil kung hindi makokolektahan yan, wala din akong pera. At the same time, concerned din ako sa mga clients dahil kung hindi siya makokolekta, maglalapse na rin ng mga accounts. But on the contrary, meron din akong obligation to attend, which is my office. So, ano siya, medyo nakaka, pag nasa lugar ka na gano'n, na, na nahihirapan din when it comes to decision making, you have to be guided with your ethics. So, ano ba yung sinumpaan mong trabaho? Is it as a collector or as a manager? So, ngayon, naiisip ko na okay, at some point, meron din akong pagkukulang dun sa office. Okay, but yun nga, since wala din support yung company sa amin na probationary that time, wala kami mga allowances. So, kung ano din, kung hindi din ako makakolekta, hindi rin ako mabubuhay na ganyan. No, di ba? So, yun, ang example ng moral distress. You know that an action is right, okay, but the organization considers it as as a wrongdoing since you are guided with a policy or a what we call this one or a law, okay, for example, in that organization. So moral outrage occurs when an individual witnesses the immoral act of another but feels powerless to stop it. Okay? So, ah, may yung parang boses sa loob mo na mali eh. Mali yung ginagawa niyo eh. Hindi tama. Dahil napapahiya yung tao, napapahiya yung pamilya, napapahiya yung institution. But, you know, since you feel that the person complaining, for example, or the person that is in charge of a certain wrongdoing is powerful than you, parang nanlilit ka sa sarili mo and you have no other means but to keep quiet. Okay, or but to keep silent. Kaya siya moral outrage dahil para siyang boses sa loob na sinasabi na mali yan, kailangan mong i-correct yung tao niya. But at some point, okay, nagiging ano tayo, na nagiging powerless tayo. Especially, yun nga, if we know that the person involved is powerful than us. So what else? Ethical dilemma described as being forced to choose between two or more undesirable alternatives. Okay, so parehong undesirable, hindi siya hindi siya maganda. Pwede rin namang desirable, dalawang maganda, tapos hindi ka makapili kung anong pwede. Okay? But most of the time, dilemma are, you know, yung parang choosing the lesser evil, ika nga. So parehong hindi sana pwede, pero you have to choose one from these options na gagamitin ninyo or i-utilize for the uh, for a certain program or for a certain activity. Okay? So question number one. Alright? But before that class, ayan, saglit lang. Okay? Alright. So, question number one, a nurse witnesses another nurse providing care without proper hand hygiene. Okay, so lalo ngayon, very important na we practice, okay, hand hygiene, proper hygiene, since we might, okay, transfer or we might, uh, tawag dito, we might infect, okay, other patients, especially if we are handling a variety of um, a variety of patients in the hospital, and we do not know who is infected or who is carrying or possessing a communicable infection. So this to the and without proper hygiene, it reports this to the charge nurse. So the charge nurse is friends with the other nurse and refuses to take action. Ayan, so mahirap yan, no? Minsan, if you are different from yung circle, wala ka dun sa circle of friends, yung mga kasama mo sa duty, ang hirap mag-fit in, okay? Especially if they know na magiging kontrabida ka dun sa kanilang circle. So, this is an example of what? Alright, so is it moral indifference? Okay, is it moral conflict? Is it moral distress or ethical dilemma? Okay, so ayan. So ano kaya ang tamang sagot? Of course, it is moral distress. Alam mo na alam mo na may problema doon sa kasama mo na nurse na hindi nag-perform ng hand hygiene. Sige, tiro lang ng tiro kahit madumi na yung kamay, mag-handle na naman ng ibang pasyente, at yun na nga. Okay, so moral distress occurs when the individual knows the right thing to do, but organizational constraints or even departmental yung unit ninyo, okay, or the circle that you have in that institution makes it difficult to take the right course of action. Sabi ko nga, minsan nai-influensyahan din yung ating mga prinsipyo when we work in the hospital. Kasi kailangan mong, may mga pagkakataon na kailangan mong bitawan yung pinapaniwalaan mo. Dahil nga, okay, ikaw na lang yung naiiba. Okay, ikaw na lang yung naiiba sa inyong circle. But I really commend people who stands up, okay, tumatayo para ipaglaban yung kanilang prinsipyo kahit mag-isa na lang nila. Okay? So with moral uncertainty or conflict, an individual is unsure which moral principles or values apply. So an ethical dilemma occurs when an individual is being forced to choose between two or more undesirable alternatives. Okay. So yun ang magiging isang problema ninyo later on as a beginner, okay, sa hospital, na may mga pagkakataon talaga na kaano talaga, hindi ka nais-nais, kahindik-hindik yung mga nangyayari sa inyong institution. But since ikaw lang yung naiiba ang prinsipyo, okay, tapos halimbawa, 95 sila, okay, tapos ikaw yung pang 96 sa institution ninyo, tapos alam mo na tama ka talaga and you know, you are guided ethically with that stand that you believe in. Okay, pero 95 sila, anong laban mo mag-isa ka? So minsan, okay, with the strong or with a powerful circle of people, hindi mo mailaban yung iyong stand dahil nag-iisa ka na lang. Alright? But of course, sabi ko nga, if you can do it alone, if you can stand up alone and you really know that your proposition or your stand is the right is morally right, then it sometimes this this stand or these principles are worth fighting for, ita nga. Okay, at kung hindi man ngayon kung hindi man ngayon bubunga ng mabuti, eh baka ah, later on magbubunga yan ng maayos at mabuti sa inyong organization. Okay. So management ethical responsibilities, you have to understand the ethical problem solving process. What else? Be familiar with the ethical frameworks and principles. Of course, you know that during your bioethics and bioethics class, and no ethical professional code. All right. So you are guided with the ethical principles of your profession. All right. Okay. So first is, of course, you have your ethical frameworks that will assist you in solving ethical dilemmas. Number one here is utilitarian or utilitarianism, or you call it teleological. So it provides the greatest good for the greatest number. So kung ano yung mas nakakabuti, mas makakabuti sa nakararami, then that is the one applicable. So this type of framework or ethical framework was first proposed by Jeremy Bentham in the late 1700s that postulates that government interventions are useful only if they promote the greatest good for the greatest number of people. A perfect example is during the time of pandemic, may marami talagang nagutom, marami naghihirap, marami ang talagang nalugmok sa kahirapan because they cannot work dahil nga we have restrictions uh, with our quarantine policies. So dahil nga ganyan yung nangyari, ang ginawa ng gobyerno ay magbigay ng ayuda. Dahil karamihan nga karamihan sa population are really experiencing difficulty in finding in finding in looking for food, okay, na pwede nilang dalhin sa kanilang mga pamilya. So, you have to provide the greatest good for the greater number of people. An emphasis is placed on guiding actions by their usefulness and evaluating them against the produced outcomes or consequences. So, uh, this is really important, especially if you know if most of your employees or most of your subordinates are really in need or in need of solution to a certain or to a common issue or problem. Rights-based, ayan, so this is deontological, okay? Individuals have the basic inherent rights that should not be interfered with, okay? So hindi mo pwedeng panghimasukan yung yung isang bagay na na alam mo na meron silang ilalaban later on dahil they are guided with their rights. Okay? So, for example, sa paggawa ng ating schedule sa duty, okay, hindi mo pwedeng bigyan ng schedule yung buntis. Okay? Hindi mo siya pwedeng i-assign yung buntis sa infectious unit or infection uh, sa isolation unit dahil buntis yan. Okay? So kapag pinasok mo yan sa isang isolation unit at buntis siya at namatay yung kanyang pinagbubuntis or nagkaroon ng abnormalities dun sa kanyang pinagbubuntis, meron kang obligation or meron kang tawag dito, liability as the leader who assigned that person in that area na alam mong risky para sa kanya. Okay? So duty-based, same, deontological, a duty to do something or to refrain from doing something. Okay? And your intuitionist, same pa rin, deontological siya, where in each case, weighed on a case-by-case basis to determine relative goals, duties, and rights. So, an example of this in the clinical duty is when to assign a person or when to pull out someone or ano yung mga magiging criteria natin in pulling out somebody to augment yung kakulangan ng isang ward. For example, sa ER, supposedly, tatlo silang duty in an afternoon shift. Kaya lang, biglang nagkaroon ng emergency yung dalawa, so mag-isa lang yung duty sa ER. But since in the private ward, tatlo kayo at kung naman yung pasyente, dadalawa yung pasyente, pull out ka ng isa doon. But what is your basis? Okay? In determining now, okay, the qualities of a person, okay, that should be assigned in that area. So, pwedeng ang basis mo dyan is meron siyang experience dati, na-rotate na siya sa emergency room. So, pwede siyang kunin ngayon doon sa ER2 augment. Or baka naman na-experience siya, lagi na lang siya yung kinukuha mo doon. Hindi din naman pwede. So, you have to weigh things out. Okay? So, baka naman hindi na siya natutuwa na laging siya na lang ang lagi na lang siya ang pinupull out mo. Ayun. So, nakaka-relate si Philip dyan dahil siya ang laging inuutusan ko pag may mga gamit na kukunin sa ano. Di ba, Philip? Ayan. So, collectively, deontology is an ethical theory founded by Immanuel Kant. Okay? So, very popular si Immanuel Kant actually. So, this applies judgment based on the underlying morality or the rightness or wrongness of an action. So, lagi mong iisipin, ang desisyon ko ba na ito ay tama? Okay na. Lagi mong inuutosan si Philip. Okay? Ayan. So, ang purpose ko lang naman kaya lagi kong inutusan si Philip ay para maubos yung extra energy niya kasi masyado siyang energetic most of the time. Ayan. So, it is based upon adherence to the rules. Okay, so meron ka dapat pinag-uhugutan o meron ka dapat sinusundan na policy. Okay, in selecting or in choosing people to pull out or to augment dun sa kakulangan ng isang area. Okay? So the driving factor of decisions are evaluated through the intentions rather than the outcomes. Okay? So mas mahalaga yung intention mo, yung ang tawag dito yung parang um, plano. Okay? Kesa yung magiging, kasi halimbawa, iniisip mo lagi na may-experience sa ganito. Okay? May-experience sa ER, kaya siya nakikulang. Hindi mo iisipin yung magiging outcome na kung may experience, mas smooth sailing yung magiging duty mo dahil alam na niya yung gagawin niya. Hindi yung outcome ang isipin natin. Kundi, yung intention natin na, hindi na siya pwede dahil lagi na lang siya napupull out sa ER. Kailangan, yung kasama naman niyang bago para ma-train ko din. Okay? So, with experience, 10 times ko nang natawag. Okay, so ito namang bago para hindi naman isipin ni with experience na siya na lang lagi ang pinupull out natin. So, you always have, in the ontology, you always look at your intention. Okay? At hindi yung kanilang expertise para mas maging advantageous on your part dahil nga alam na niya yung gagawin niya. Okay? So, what else? Okay, question. All right. So, tell whether the following statement is true or false. A nurse manager who makes decisions based on what will benefit the majority of the nurses in his or her charge is using the intuitionism ethical framework for decision making. Is it true or is it false? Ayan, so tignan natin. Alright, so it is false because using an ethical framework of utilitarianism encourages decision-making based on what provides the greatest good for the greatest number of people. Okay? The intuitionist framework allows the decision maker to review each ethical problem or issue on a case-to-case basis, comparing the relative weights of goals, duties, and rights. Alright, so before we head on to the next topic, of course, this is just a review on your part. These principles were already lectured during your ethics and your bioethics class. So I will be giving you an activity today, okay, by using these ethical principles on your screens, okay. So make an example, okay, 2 examples for each, okay, kung saan ginagamit ninyo yung autonomy, beneficence, non-maleficence, paternalism, utility, and justice in your line of work. Okay? So, column 1 is, ito nga, yung nakalagay yung ating ethical principles. Column 2 are yung inyong citation of your examples, okay, kung saan ginagawa o ina-apply natin yung mga principles na ito. Alright? So, meron pa, pahabol pa. Okay, veracity, fidelity, and confidentiality as well. So, you put it in a white cotton band, Okay? Or kung may computer kayo, may laptop kayo, you encode it, and then a soft copy should be submitted dun sa ating portal. Okay. So, bukas, we will continue with ethical principles and we might start with our chapter 5, okay, yung legal aspects, okay, sa ating nursing management and leadership, which is actually a um, a prelude, okay. Actually, this ethical principle is a prelude to our topic for tomorrow. So, thank you guys for joining and stay safe. God bless at maraming salamat.